Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My very dear friends, mentors, learners, teachers, friends, a very warm welcome to the lecture of the day, which is the 21st lecture of the project management series. And today we will discuss the very basic knowledge area that is project integration management. As a matter of fact, this knowledge area comes right in the beginning of the project management, but somehow I thought that once we are in a position to teach or discuss all the 8 or 9 knowledge areas, then we will come to the final integration management area. So to formally start the lecture, I will recite the holy verses from the Quran. إنا أنزلنا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام الخيام حتى مطلع الفجر صدق الله العظيم. So we will take up the integration management, and as I already discussed, that it integrates the various processes and the knowledge areas required during different phases or processes of the project. And it is based on a progressive elaboration and a progressive evolution. The integration management, the names reflects, integrates the core areas and the support areas in a way that the project is completed successfully. And the role of this integration is very important in the different processes and in the different phases of the organization, of the projects. Before we start with the integration management and the sub-processes which are used in the integration management, there are some fundamental concepts about the project selection. We did discuss some of the attributes in the earlier feasibility analysis of the projects in the very beginning, almost 1 year back. And now we will see some more tools and techniques which can be used for the selection of the projects. So good project integration management is certainly a key to the overall project success, to make sure that what particular process will be required at the appropriate stage in the project is a very key decision which is done by the integration management. So the project managers have to coordinate with all other knowledge areas throughout the project life cycle. And many new project managers have trouble looking at the big picture and want to focus on too many details. So project integration management is not the same thing as a software integration. This is, again, many people confuse as if it is integration of a new software-like thing in which some new tools are integrated into the project or into the software. But in fact, this is a knowledge area which integrates the various knowledge areas into the project. The project portfolio management, we will discuss this in quite detail next time, but certainly this is the process through which we select the projects, because the project capital in the public or private sector is not unlimited, and we have a number of projects waiting for the sponsoring and for the financing. So for the any organization which is executing the projects, it is not always possible to select all the projects, and therefore there must be some filtering mechanism or selection criteria which helps the organization to select the most suitable and appropriate projects. So there are different selection criterion. We are using the financial, in which we also discussed last time, the payback period, the net present values, the internal rate of return, and I'm not going to much detail of this because we have a quite detailed discussion in the project feasibility analysis on this particular aspect. And in the non-financial, we can see the strategic fit and the relevance of the project to the strategic fit of the organization. And then for this, we may be using multi-weighted scoring models, and we will discuss that how these scoring models are used. Now, the project screening process, which is a typical process that you have a proposal which is coming, and then you collect the data, and you see that whether the project is fitting into the strategic needs of the organization in terms of risk, return on investment, payback period, risk, and all these. And then the self-evaluation by the project team is done at the desk, and if the self-evaluation criteria is not followed, then definitely it is abandoned. And if it is followed and we believe that it should be referred to more details, then we send it to the priority teams to evaluate the project proposal and review the portfolio for risk balance. And then we may return it to for more information, maybe some of the information about the risk or some of the portfolio information may not be sufficient. So we may recommend this project for further elaboration and further data, or we may uh, defer the project for some future priority assessment, and at the moment we may not be taking up the project. And then the third situation would be that the project is accepted and the priority is assigned to the project, and then we also identify the resources and we assign the project manager, and the resources are held for the project. So this is a typical flow chart of the project screening process in the organization, in any organization, and which certainly has got certain steps. These are describing some of the tools, and we will discuss that the priorities analysis for various projects is established. The strategic planning may involve determining the long-term objectives and predicting the future trends and projecting the need for new products and services. This is very important because the organization cannot survive without new projects for developing the new products and services. And for this, the strategic planning is really very important. So normally we go for the SWOT analysis, which is the strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats. And we try to identify the potential projects, use a realistic method to select which project is to work on, and formalize the project initiation by issuing a project charter. Now, the methods of selection projects, we discussed this in quite detail, and there are a number of methods which would depend on the organizational needs, the categorization of the information technology projects. We may perform the net present value techniques. We may use the weighted scoring models, and we may use the balanced scorecard approach. We will discuss briefly. It's often difficult to provide strong justification for many IT projects, but everyone agrees that they have a high value. So this is again not only with IT projects, but with all the projects. This is the problem, that the proponents of the projects may justify or may give high value to the projects. It's better to measure gold roughly than count pennies precisely. So at this stage, when we are selecting the project, it may not be possible to go into the much details, but certainly we will have a check or a filter mechanism in which we can identify the priority of the project. For example, the three important criteria for projects are the need for the project, is there any need or justification? The second is the funds are available, and when there is a strong will to take up the project. So this is these three things, need, funds, and will, are very important to evaluate for any new proposal. In the financial analysis, we discussed last time many tools like net present value, return on investment, and payback period. And I will not go into details, but certainly the net present value is the discounted uh, value of the money which we are going to receive in the future, and that is discounted at the opportunity cost, and that is accounting for the time value of money. This is just showing the comparative analysis that we have two projects in which the project 1 and project 2 ultimately gives a net cash flow of $5,000 after say 5 years. But if we just look into the income and expenditure statement and the net cash flow, we would see that if we apply the net present value, the net present value of the second project is $3,201 as against $2,316 for the project 1. So certainly the net present value of the project 2 is higher, and definitely we will try to select this kind of project. So I will not go into the details. Certainly we will use the discounting rate or discounting formula. The return on investment is again a criteria in which we want to see that the total discounted returns are divided by the total discounted cost, and that will give us the ratio between the benefits and cost, and certainly this should be more than 1. Whereas internal rate of return is the discount rate or the opportunity cost at which the net present value of the project would become 0, and we have to determine that. The payback analysis we normally do to see that the amount of time or the duration which will be required to realize the initial investment in the project. So this may be based on the non-discounted project cash flows or discounted cash flows. This is just a chart which gives us the break-even point or the payback period. For example, in this particular project, it is the cumulative cost is shown by the diamond, and the cumulative benefits are shown by the square. And we see that at somewhere in at point 1, after 1 year, the benefits and costs would meet, and the project would return back its investment, and this is the point beyond which we can expect the profit to grow. The weighted scoring model, which is mostly qualitative and quantitative mix, in which we try to identify the important criteria for the selection of project, and then we assign weightages to each and every criteria, and then based on that we can then assess various projects for their weighted score. This is just give us 3 projects, for example, or 4 projects in which there are 5 or 6 criteria are used. And for example, how the project are supporting the key business objectives, has the project strong internal sponsor, has the strong customer support, realistic level of technologies available, can be implemented in 1 year or less, the net present value is positive, and the low risk is low in terms of scopes, time, and cost. So on the next column, we see that we have given some weightages to different objectives or criterion of the project based on its importance. For example, the objective has got 25%, internal sponsor 15%, and so on. In NPV, we have got 20%. Now the score out of 100, which is being got by different projects, has been given, and then based on this we come up with the weighted average, and finally we have come up with the total score. And the total score, for example, for the project number 2 is the highest, which is 78.5 on a scale of 100, and that gives the highest weighted score for the project 2. Whereas the second is project 3, and then we have the project 1 and project 3 and project 4. So this just gives us comparative analysis based on a weighted score model, the importance of the project in terms of our various important criteria we have selected for the project decisions. This is another more or less the same thing, but here we have the weight have been expressed in terms of integers, and the criterion for selection are bit more like stay within the core competency, the strategic fit, the urgency, the 25% of sales from new product, reduce the defects to less than 1%, improve the customer loyalty, and so on. Return of investment is 18% or plus. So based on this, we have given this thing the weightages of 2, 3, 2, 2.5, 1, 1, and 3. And based on that, we then give a score to the project based on 10, and then we multiply that by the relative factor, and we come up with the final score. So if you see in this particular case, the weighted total score of project number 5 is 102, whereas the project, any other project. So we certainly then would go for the project which has got the maximum weighted score. The Balaam Scorecard, which was developed by the Robert Kaplan and David Norton to select the project to align the business strategy. And a Balaam Scorecard is a methodology that converts the organizational value drivers such as customer service, innovation, operational efficiency, and the financial performance to a series of defined matrices. And based on those matrices, interconnected matrices, then finally we decide the selection of a particular project. The project integration management we discussed in the beginning, that is the coordination of all other activities of the project management knowledge areas to the project life cycle. So throughout the project life cycle, we would need the different knowledge areas, different processes, and that is integrated by the integration management. And normally we have three very important, that we develop the plan, we develop the execution plan, and we develop the change control plan, and we develop the closing plan. This is a figure which gives a very clear role of the project integration management. And you will see that the project is started, the initiation process is started, and then the that is followed by process of planning process, then execution process, and then the closing process, and then project is completed. Now, in the initiation project process, the integration management normally deal with the developing of the project charter, which is very important document for the project. In the planning phase, we develop the project management plan, and when we execute the project, we develop the direct the management project and monitoring and controlling project, which are two very important projects. During execution, we have the execution plan, and in the same time we have the project monitoring and control plan, and also the integrated change control. And once we are going to close the project, the closing process, we go for the close project plan. So we will discuss these 5 plans in details. Now the first is we develop the which is the first plan, develop the project charter or develop the initial project plan. And this initial project plan is comprised of three very important parts, that is developing the project charter, develop the preliminary project scope, and develop the project management plan. Now the project charter, which is a very fundamental document to stay and reflect the relationship between the stakeholders and the role of the project manager, the stakeholder, which is really very important. And this document authorizes the project to start, and then we have the preliminary project scope statement, which describes the services and the deliverables in terms of results, and then this scope is further refined in the more next stages, but certainly the preliminary project scope provides a fundamental definition of the project. And then this is the next step, we develop the project plan, which is again a preliminary plan that how the project would be executed, and what kind of documents would be required for the project to execute. The second is the execution, that plan the execution. And if we just go to the slide, we see that we develop the direct and manage the project execution. So project execution plan, which is a very important document to plan the various parts of the project execution when we are in the execution phase. And at the same time, we also have the monitoring and control plan, which is very important to develop right in the beginning, that how the various important decisions will be taken and what various important attributes of the project will be monitored. And then very important is at the same time as the monitoring and controlling process, in which we have a very important plan or important, that is the integrated change control, that we have to develop a mechanism through which we can ensure that the project is not changing too much and the scope is somehow kept very restricted and very few changes are ensured in the project. And finally, when we are going to close the project, we have the close plan, that how the project would be closed. Now coming to the project charter, which is a document that formally recognizes the existence of the project and provides a direction of the project objectives and management. And the key project stakeholders should sign a project charter to acknowledge agreement on the need and intent of the project. So this is very important, that the key project managers and the key project they try to identify the rules. Within the project planning stage or initiation stage, we try to identify the project scope, and we discuss the scope management in a quite detail. But certainly at the beginning, we have a clear scope statement, and we are trying to prevent the scope creep, which is a very slow change in the scope of the project. A good practice is to develop a preliminary or initial scope statement during project initiation, and more detailed scope as the project progresses. We have already. The preliminary project scope may have, for example, the project objective, the product and services, project boundaries, deliverables, acceptance criteria, assumptions, organization structure, initial list of defined risks, summary of schedule, milestones, rough order of magnitudes, rough cost estimates, configuration management, and description of the approval required. The second is then once we develop the scope, then we go for the project management plan, which tells us that how the project will be executed. And plans created in the other knowledge areas are subsidiary parts of the overall project management plan, which is certainly created in the project integration plan. Now the project plans must be unique, so that it should be dynamic, flexible, and updated as changes occur. Plans should first and foremost guide project execution by helping the project manager lead the project team and assess the project status. So a well-developed project plan will guide the project team for a successful implementation and execution of the project. Common elements of a project management introduction are overview, description of how the project is organized, management and technical processes used on project, and work to be done, schedule and budget information. So these are the important part of the project plan. For example, this is showing a very small and a very simple project plan or a software project management, in which the overview is given that this is the purpose, scope and objectives, assumption and constraints, project deliverables, schedule and budget, summary and evolution of the plan. In the organization, we develop the external interfaces, internal structure, rules and responsibilities. And then within the managerial process plan, we define the startup plan, the staffing, resource acquisition, and project staffing training plan, work plans, activity schedule, resource and budget allocations, control plan, risk management plan, and closeout plan. Where in the technical process plan, we try to develop the process model, methods, tools, and techniques, infrastructure plan, product acceptance plan, and so on. In the support plan, we try to see the configuration management plan, verification and validation plan, documentation plan, quality assurance, review and audits, problem resolution plans, subcontractor management plan, process improvement plan, and so on. A very important part of this project management plan is stakeholder analysis, that we try to see that what are different type of stakeholders, what are their names, their roles in the project, their unique facts, and their level of influence, and so on. This is, for example, we discussed this earlier also, that this is giving us the unique features of different stakeholders. There are 5 people, and for each person as a stakeholder, we have given their strong attributes like their organization, their role on the project, their unique facts, their level of interest, level of influence, and suggestion on managing relationships. So how can you manage your relationship as a project manager with these different types of stakeholders? The next is the project executions plan, in which we try to see that how the project would be executed from the day first to the last, while incorporating different plans and different processes. The majority of time and money is usually spent on execution. More than 70 or 80% of the resources we need for the execution of projects. The application area of the project directly affect project execution, because the products of the projects are produced during project execution. Now, the coordination of planning and execution is very important, and we keep on monitoring and controlling. So the leadership is really very important for the success of the project management and integration. Project managers must lead by example to demonstrate the importance of creating and then following good project plans. Organization culture can help project execution by providing guidelines and templates, tracking performance based on plans. Project managers may still need to break the rules to meet project goals, and senior managers must support those actions. Now, to execute the project, we need to have the general management skills such as leadership, communication, and political skills. We must know about the product, business, and application area, and the use of specialized tools and techniques. In the project management tools and techniques, we have the project management methodology, that how the project will be executed, and the project management information system about the different attributes of the project. So these are two very important parts of the project tools and techniques in the project execution stage. This third one is the monitoring and controlling project work, and that is again in the monitoring and controlling process, that how would we ensure that the various targets which have been invested in the project are achieved. So changes are inevitable on the most projects, so it's important to develop and follow a process to monitor and control changes. Monitoring project works include collecting, measuring, and disseminating the performance information. Two important outputs of the monitoring and controlling projects work include recommended corrective and preventive actions. We discussed this in quite detail in the project quality management. So comparing actual to the project performance against the project management plan, we are doing it, assessing the performance to determine whether any corrective or preventive actions are required, analyze the tracking and monitoring project risk to make sure that the risks are identified and their status are reported and the appropriate risk response plan are being executed, maintaining an accurate timely information base concerning the project products and their associated documentation, providing information to support status, providing forecast to update the current cost and current schedule, and monitoring implementation of approved changes when they occur. So these are very important. Another very important process, which is again part of the monitoring and controlling, is the integrated change control, and that is very important to see that the change in the project is controlled and it is not like an open-ended process. So the factors that create changes to ensure that changes are beneficial, determine that the changes occurred, and manage actual changes as they occur. A baseline is the approved project management plan plus approved changes. So what happens that the initial baseline of the project will be updated once there is any change in scope, quality, cost, or any other thing which changes the entire project. So a formal change control system must be built into the project, in which we can normally expect that the forum or the body which has approved the project should be only allowed to make the scope changes in the project. But there is certain limit like 15%. The planning commission that within 15% any change in the project scope or cost should not be going to revise the PC1 or the project proposal. And then we have also to make authorize the person who can make this change. So we try to identify the changes need as they occur, influence the factor that circumvent the integrated change, review and approving the requested changes, managing and approve changes when they occur, maintaining the integrity baseline, reviewing and approving all recommended corrective and preventive actions, controlling and updating the scope, cost, budget, and schedule and quality, and documenting the complete impact of requested changes, validating the defect repairs, and controlling a project quality are to standards based on quality reports. Sometimes the organizations have the change control boards or change control committees, and these committees are normally responsible for approving of any proposed change in the project scope, time, quality, or cost. So these CCBs provide the guidelines for preparing the change request, evaluating the change request, and manage the implementation of approved changes. So normally they are representing the stakeholders from the entire organization. Lastly, the closing project plan, there must be a plan included in the integration or project plan, which includes the procedures and methods for closing the projects. When we close the projects, this involves a lot of documentation, the handing and taking over of the projects, shifting of roles, transfer of various finished goods. So this must be a very comprehensive closing process must be built into the project, and the project integration management must provide a very detailed deliberations on the closing project. So the main output may include the administrative closure procedures, the contract closure procedure, final product service and results, acceptance and procedure, and organization process access updates. So based on the final closing of the project, we may need to update some of the project process as assets, which is the archives, or which is the maybe some new policy decision has been taken, which can be updated in the existing policy documents. So closing projects involve performing the project closure portion of the project management. In multi-phase project, the closed project process may come to close the various phases. Administrative closure procedure, this is a detail with all the liabilities, interaction, activities, related roles and responsibility of the project teams and other stakeholders involved in the execution and administrative closure procedure. They are involved in the project. Contract closure procedure includes all activities and interaction needed to settle and close down the contract agreement established for the project, as well as define those related activities supporting the formal administrative closure of the project. So this is just telling us that once we have used all these methodologies, we have the administrative closure procedures, we have the contract closure procedure, we have final products and services, and based on these, the organizational assets, process assets are also updated with maybe latest version at that time. Thank you very much. Very small presentation today on the project integration management, which in fact should have been in the beginning, but I think it would be now explaining some very important parts in which we try to integrate the various phases and processes in the project. So thank you very much and have a nice time and a safe and healthy time. Thank you very much.